all of the above. So food is a big deal. And it's not just the types of foods you eat, and that's part of it, but it's the length of time of eating too. So if you eat all day long, in fact, we were told 30 years ago in medical school, and they're still teaching it today, even though all the research has shown it's really a bunch of bunk, that you should eat 5 small meals a day with snacks in between so you never get an empty stomach or never get hypoglycemia. Well, it turns out the single best thing you can do is have an empty stomach. And the single worst thing you can do is have a full stomach. So having nothing in your stomach is the way to go. That being hungry is so important.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar. Let us know where you're tuning in from today. You can post that right in the chat if you're joining us on Zoom. There is a Q&A section where you can ask your questions as well as we go through this webinar. Those of you on YouTube and Facebook, hello. You will find a link. It should say bartonwebinar.com. You can click that to find more information about us, about these webinars, how to find us on YouTube so you can watch all of our past episodes and our Q&A. Lots of good stuff on that site. So make sure you head there, bartonwebinar.com. Okay, it tells me Facebook didn't work, but when I look over here, it says it's on Facebook. So I don't know what's happening. Wow, a lot of you on here real fast. So that is great. Today, we're going to be talking about what is type 2 diabetes. We're going to take your questions, which I think is always just the best part. So looks like Ryan Kelly is here. Ryan, I mean, you should just be on the webinar at this point because you've been here so many times. You already know everything. He's a doctor just like me now, right, Dr. Saunders?
Right.
We've learned from the best.
I give you an honorary MD degree.
What did I say? I was a doctor one day and then something else.
Honorary doctorate degree. There you go.
Yes. All right. Who else is here? Hey, the Ungers are here. Awesome. David is back. Stefan or Steven from the Netherlands, Danielle or Daniel. Awesome. Tamara's here. Terry, Susan. Tom is back from Eugene. Let's see. Ron from Ohio. Welcome, Ron. Oh, maybe you've been on here before. Hey, the Garcias are back. Awesome. Darwin is here. Oh, we have a hello from Minnesota, our neighboring state. I'm in South Dakota. Debbie from Oregon here. Hey, Lloyd is back from Hershey, Pennsylvania. Awesome. Connie, Mary. Oh my goodness, so many of you. Okay, this is great. We got a lot of you on. Let's go ahead and just get started. I'm going to be hopping off a little bit early, having an appointment. So Joe's going to probably fill in and ask some questions for me. But oh boy, I better do the disclaimer before I forget. Dr. Saunders is not your doctor, so please consult with your medical professional before you implement any of the things that we talk about here today. All right. But the stuff that we talk about is really good. So you're going to want to really think about it. So just going to say that. Today we're focusing on type 2. And I always love when we do these discussions because Dr. Saunders is able to explain things so well. And one of the things, and I remember when we first were diving into this, we were going to start our webinars. And I was like, oh my gosh, I better read that diabetes book because I don't really understand what type 2 really is. I hear about it. Apparently, half the population at this point pretty much has diabetes or type 2. And is that where we're at? Half the population-ish?
It's more like a third, but half, it's projected to be half by 2030 because that's how fast.
I don't even know who has pre-diabetes. Yeah. Wow. But anyway, so I really dug into our diabetes solution kit and I learned a lot. But if I'm honest with you, these webinars this is where you learn all the things. You get to ask the questions, find out what has worked for other people, etc. So Dr. Saunders, can you explain to us what is happening in our body when we are diagnosed with type 2 or when we find out that we have type 2?
Okay, I had somebody yesterday, his first time in, and his second time is he came back for his blood test results, And I explained to him that he had insulin resistance, and he says, "What does that mean exactly? I don't even know what insulin resistance is." And I said, "Well, we used to call it pre-diabetes, pre-type 2 diabetes. So let's start from the beginning and look at how this is not something that's a yes or no question. Yes, you have type 2. No, you don't. It's more of where are you on the scale of insulin resistance. So why is that important? Because you get up the scale up pretty high up there, and your blood sugar starts going high. And then you go, you have diabetes because your blood sugar's high. And that's how you define the diabetes. But way before that, when you have the beginnings of insulin resistance, is when you start actually getting problems in your body. That's when the kidneys are already getting damaged. That's when your brain is already getting damaged. That's when your heart is already getting damaged. So all of the damage is being done from insulin resistance way before you even get high blood sugar. Your blood glucose doesn't have to be high to have kidney failure. So it's really important that you understand that this is a progression. And where you want to be is there's an optimal place to be. There's a perfect place. You don't want to be too low. You don't want to be too high. You want to be in this perfect place. And so how do I know the perfect place? Well, there's a whole lot of research on this, an amazing amount of research on this. And for those of you who have been on the program for a long time, we've gone through a lot of statistical analysis of the mortality to insulin resistance, mortality to blood pressure, mortality to blood sugar, mortality to weight, mortality to body mass index. We've looked at all those mortality tables, and they give you a really good idea of where this optimum is. We've even looked at vitamins, mortality to vitamin D levels, and B12 and that kind of stuff. And so it's clear when you look at those that there's an optimum place to be. There's a place where you have the lowest mortality, and when you get too high, then the mortality starts going up. So there's this a U shape, or what they call a J curve. It's more like a U shaped curve. And this lowest mortality place is where you want to be. So where is that? That's what we're going to talk about today. So first of all, what is type 2? What is insulin resistance? Because this guy comes to me and I tell me he has insulin resistance. He goes, well, what does that even mean? Okay, it's not that hard. If you have a cell, and each one of your cells acts independently. This is not a group effort in everything. It's each cell acting independently, and as a group, they get a lot of things done. So there's not like one cell saying, okay, you guys do this, I'll do that. In your liver, for example, there is each one of your cells is acting independently. So each cell is its own factory. It's making proteins, it's making hormones, it's making whatever substances are needed, it's making energy. It's doing what it does independent of everything else. And it needs glucose, it needs sugar. Without the sugar, it has no energy, it can't do anything. So in order to get sugar in the cell, it has to have insulin. Why? When you eat, you make insulin. Insulin is telling the body, I just ate something, so there's going to be extra glucose around, so you can bring it in. If you didn't do that, then your glucose, if it's low, then your cells could bring it in and make it lower. And then the other cells can bring it in and make it lower. And you could get hypoglycemic, and your brain could stop working, and your heart would stop working, and your kidneys would stop working, and your nervous system would stop working, because they need a constant supply of glucose. So you have to regulate the cells and stop them from bringing sugar in when your sugar is low. And that's why you stop making insulin. Well, what happens is these cells you eat and they fill up with sugar. And then you eat some more and they fill up more. And then you eat some more and they have too much. So they start making something called glycogen. Glycogen is a storage sugar. It's just a starch, essentially. And it's storing this glycogen for a rainy day. And then you eat some more, and it's storing more glycogen, and you eat some more, and it's storing more glycogen. There's a whole lot of energy here, and we're not using it all. So we're storing it for a rainy day. What if you never have a rainy day? What if it's always sunny and you never have rain? Then what happens is you're filling up, and eventually the cell says, whoa, our storage units are completely full, jam-packed. We're just going to stop making insulin receptors to bring sugar into the cell. So we're going to just stop them. We don't need any more sugar. So the nucleus just says, no more insulin receptors. So here you have this cell has no insulin receptors anywhere. So blood sugar goes up. Your pancreas goes, aha, we got extra sugar. Let's bring them into the cells. So your pancreas makes insulin. Insulin level goes up. Insulin comes to your cell and says, nothing there. Gosh, let's go to another cell. Nothing there. Nothing there. And meanwhile, your blood sugar keeps going up. There's no place for the insulin to dock to bring sugar in. And so the sugar just keeps going up. And then your pancreas is going, oh my gosh, there's more sugar here. We got to do something, make more insulin. So your pancreas is pumping out insulin like crazy. We got to get rid of this sugar. And that's the only way it knows how to get rid of sugar. It's the only way. There's no other way. So the sugar just keeps going up, and the insulin just keeps going up. But guess what happens? Remember, each one of these cells is independent. Well, the neighbor cell over here now says, well, I'm full now too, so I'm blocking them off. And then the other cell over here says, oh, I'm full now too, so I'm blocking them off. So you're getting more and more insulin resistant as time goes on, as each one of your cells, one by one, is blocking off all of their insulin receptors so that they don't get too much sugar, so they don't overload with sugar. It's just toxicity of sugar. So if you think about that, there's two ways to handle this. One is you got to use up that sugar in the cell and use up the glycogen. And a great way to use up glycogen is exercise. And then another really simple thing to do is, for heaven's sakes, stop putting things in your mouth. Stop putting stuff in there. You're already toxic. If you were toxic on lead, the first thing I would do is say, where is the source of lead, and stop it. Stop eating those crayons. Stop eating that paint off the. We actually had somebody, a young kid, a young boy, who had lead toxicity. And we found out, in Santa Barbara, there's a lot of old houses. And so he lived in an old house, and he was chewing on the windowsill. It's actually like chewing on the windowsill. And the paint was getting in, these old leaded paint was getting in, he was eating it. So that's how he got lead toxicity. So guess what we did? We tell him, stop eating paint. Stop chewing on the windowsill so that you don't get more toxic. Well, in the same sense, we're telling everybody here, stop getting more toxic on sugar. So what do? So we give you a little kit, and it's how to reverse diabetes. And what is it? It's really simple. It's a ketogenic diet. You only eat 20 grams of carbohydrates. That's all you get. That's not enough for you to live on. And because of that, your cells are not going to fill up with glucose because there's not enough glucose around. They're going to start using up all that extra glucose they had, all that storage that was there. And for some of you, it can take a couple of weeks. For others, it could take 6 months. You have so much storage that it's going to take months to use up all that sugar. If you want to use it up faster, what do? You either do a lot of exercise or you fast. Those are the two things. Fasting is the quick way to reverse this. Why? Because you're not taking anything in, no extra energy at all. So now you have to burn all the fat and take all the glycogen, all the sugar out of your cells. And so using up all that extra energy so that things open up. And then once the level of sugar has gone down in the cell, then the cell can start saying, okay, I guess we need some more glucose. Let's make some insulin receptors. So then they put out the insulin receptors all over the cell. And then the insulin comes and goes, I can bring sugar into the cell, and then the sugar drops down and the insulin drops down, and now you're no longer insulin resistant. Okay, so you want that to be at a certain point. So when you do a hemoglobin A1C, it needs to be right around 5.2. That's the low. So if you're 5.0 to 5.4, that seems to be the optimum range. When you look at a mortality table, if you get lower than that, it's a J curve, your death rate, your mortality rate starts going up if you're below, if you're in the fours, if your hemoglobin A1C is like 4.8, 4.7, or really low. That's hypoglycemia. If it's between 5.0 and 5.4, that's an optimum place to be. And then above 5.4, your mortality starts going up again. And here's the point: before you ever get diabetes, before you ever have high blood sugar, your mortality doubles. I'm talking from 1 to 2 by the time you get to 5.8. That's pre-diabetes. Your blood sugar is still pretty normal most of the time, but your mortality, your chance of dying, doubles just from going from 5.4 to 5.8. So it's a big deal. And people are told, oh, it's just pre-diabetes, no big deal. Here, take some metformin. No, this is a big deal. This is not a small thing. It's really important. So now you know the optimum, you know where to be, and you know how to get there. If you're not there, you know how to get there. It's really simple.
All right, I'm actually going to share my screen here quick. And then I have to take off. But if you go to bartonwebinar.com, this is our hub, we call it, where you'll find a lot of information about our webinars. You'll find links to our YouTube channel, so you can subscribe and be notified anytime those are uploaded. Lots of products, etc. But if you go to the bottom, you'll find the diabetes solution kit here. And this is what Dr. Saunders is talking about. This is the program. Now, over the course of the past, probably 4 weeks or so, we've gone over phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 of this book. So if you're someone here who is new, I would highly encourage you to get that diabetes solution kit and then go watch the YouTube videos as you're going through this, because we've honestly created a free support system to help you figure out how to best do those. The book itself will help you, but you get to hear everybody's questions about the phases as well. So just really good time to get started. Or maybe you bought the book a year ago and you're like, oh, maybe I should do something about that. This would be the time to start, because we do hear a lot of people who are like, were really motivated the day they bought it and then they didn't do anything with it. And so I would just really encourage you to go back and dig back into your diabetes solution kit. You can get a digital version today. You can pay for it under $20, and then you'll get an email where you can download it, or you can pay a little extra for the hard copy. But guys, this is really, really good information. And you're going to find there's some people who will probably mention in the chat that they've done this and have had great success. I've seen about 4 of you that I personally have talked to that have had that success, that are on the webinar right now. I won't call your names out, but you know who you are. Anyway, so feel free to post in the chat. And anyway, here's Barton webinar. I actually have to take off, but I think Joe's going to fill in for me and probably go through some of your questions. There are some really good ones in there. And I'll go ahead and get us started with Terry's question. You kind of already addressed this, but why is diabetes becoming an epidemic? Is it because of food or other factors?
Yes, all of the above. So food is a big deal. And it's not just the types of foods you eat, and that's part of it. But it's the length of time of eating too. So if you eat all day long, in fact, we were told 30 years ago in medical school, and they're still teaching it today, even though all the research has shown it's really a bunch of bunk, that you should eat 5 small meals a day with snacks in between, so you never get an empty stomach or never get hypoglycemia. Well, it turns out the single best thing you can do is have an empty stomach. And the single worst thing you can do is have a full stomach. So having nothing in your stomach is the way to go. That being hungry is so important. And so when the dietitian is telling people don't ever get hungry, what they're saying is, please get diabetes. That they're saying, please, they're begging people to get diabetes. And we're seeing it all the time now because people are saying, oh, my stomach's growling. They run to the refrigerator and quick put something in their mouth. I don't have anything. Well, I got some candy in my pocket. I'll just pop one of those. Oh, I got to have a Snickers bar so I don't get hangry, right? That's like they advertise it that way. Don't ever, don't ever get caught without food, without some candy bar or something around. And that's why we're seeing such an epidemic of diabetes.
Yeah. Good stuff. So we had, speaking of fasting, Jeremy on our team recently. He's been fasting, and I don't know if you've been talking to him. I think you probably have, but we've been tracking our HRV, heart rate variability, and he said his shot up like a huge amount when he was fasting, and it also helps your blood sugars come down. So he was really excited to see that.
Dang, mine doesn't. How come mine doesn't go up when I fast? I have a terrible HRV.
Well, that's a whole nother topic. We could try to figure that out. I don't understand HRV fully yet, but last time I tested my own blood sugar, or I had a doctor do it, I think mine was my A1C was 5.8. I think it was either 5.6 or 5.8. So you just shared those numbers that like my mortality potentially doubled, but that was also a time when I think when I was taking my blood sugars, I was typically in the 105 to 110 morning readings, and now that's come down myself as I've been making healthier choices. But I was going to ask you, and this question comes up quite a bit, is like, why is my morning sugar higher? And it has something to do with glycogen and the muscles and different things like that. And a related question to that is like, let's say me, for example, if I take my morning blood sugar at 8 a.m. and it's 105, and then I don't eat and I take it again at 11 or noon, and then it's down to 95, which number am I using to determine whether or not I'm in a pre-diabetic range or in a healthy range?
Okay. The first morning, like when you first wake up, that's what you're looking for. Because that's when you have that cortisol spike, and that's when you're going to be insulin resistant. So what's happening in the dawn effect, the morning effect of blood sugar is you haven't eaten all night long, your stomach's empty, you're not absorbing any new calories, and then your insulin has come down because there's nothing in your stomach. And so you make something called glucagon that tells your liver to make sugar. It actually takes all the glycogen and makes it into sugar. So then your glucose level starts going up. But because you have insulin resistance and you have this dawn effect of the cortisol going up really high, which makes you more insulin resistant, then the blood sugar goes up. And that's a really good time to assess your insulin resistance. And if you wait for later, then of course it's going to come down because your cortisol comes down by then, and your body will use up that glucose as you're actively doing things.
Okay, so you could potentially cheat the system if you're going into the doctor. Do you want to do it at 8 a.m. or at noon? It's like usually you're like 8 a.m. so I can eat after that, but yeah. But that's actually when you want to do it. So that's good to know. Okay.
Right.
Good stuff. All right, let me get to some of the questions here. And Dr. Scott, if you want to go through the chat side, there might be a couple of questions in there, and I'm going to flip over to the Q&A. Q&A is where we recommend that you put your questions in so that we can keep track of them a lot easier. So, let's see. All right. Beverly asks, how do you make that Fiber Greens ice cream? So that's something I think that's more heart related. The Fiber Greens product is for our healthy heart product. And so that is really, it's just like mixing up your Fiber Greens, and you can add a little bit of cream, like heavy cream if you want, and then put it in the freezer. And that's about it. Like you don't have to do much more than that. It's pretty simple. So there we go. Did you find any, Dr. Saunders?
Well, I have one from Sita. I stopped checking my blood sugar, and and it's telling me not to. I'm at a point I eat anything and I'm not concerned, which I was told it's not good to keep it high. What you don't know, you don't know. Okay, so if you're not checking your blood sugar, then you don't know what it is, and people often assume that you can feel when your blood sugar is high. Oh, I can tell my blood sugar is high because I feel something, and that's not necessarily true. People can tell fluctuations in blood sugar, especially if it's low. But remember, there's a relative amount that if your body is used to having blood sugar at 200 all the time, and you suddenly drop it to a normal 70, which is perfectly normal blood sugar, you may feel hypoglycemic. You might feel like you're too low, even though you're not too low. You're normal, but it's the difference because your body has a set point of really high around 200. So sometimes it takes a while to get it done, and if you're not checking, then you don't know. So Sita, I recommend that keep checking it, and just check the morning one, and that's a fine way to go because that dawn effect will tell you how much resistance you have, and it's really what you're looking for is not the blood sugar, it's the insulin resistance. Joe, you're muted.
Good one. Dr. Saunders, Jim asked, could you explain how and why type 2 diabetes may get pins and needle sensations in their legs and feet? Is this due to reduced blood supply to dependent nerves due to atherosclerosis?
Okay, probably not atherosclerosis, although that could be an issue as well. But the nerves are really sensitive to a lack of energy. And when you don't have the ability, when you have insulin resistance, then things don't cross the blood-brain barrier into the nerve cells very well. And so you have less glucose available to the nerves. And some nerves tolerate that well, but the ones that are especially susceptible are in the legs because the nerve cell is in the back, and the axon or the wire from that nerve cell has to go all the way down the leg to the foot and come all the way back up, and that has to generate a whole lot of electricity, a lot of energy from glucose to get that nerve conduction. So the tingling and numbness is just that those nerves aren't working well because they don't have enough energy. So you could have atherosclerosis where you're not getting enough oxygen. That's generated that prevents them from generating energy. But also there's the blood sugar problem of not getting glucose there. And I know it's ironic. You have high blood sugar and you're going, wait a minute, I have high blood sugar. Yeah, but you have insulin resistance, so you can't get it in.
All right.
That's why insulin resistance is more important. We were talking about earlier. Insulin resistance is more important than your blood sugar. We just use the blood sugar as an easy metric to look at. It's not because you can't say, well, what's my insulin resistance number? You can. There is an index, but it's so much easier to check your blood sugar and see where it is.
And insulin resistance isn't technically a disease, right? It's more just how would you describe what that is? I'm just thinking about in our marketing and communications, like we can't talk about like reversing diabetes, but we can say like helping type 2. Can we say, you know what I'm saying? I got to think about the compliance things here. So
that's right. Yeah, insulin resistance, that actually is not an official disease. There's no code for it. So yeah, you can just use insulin resistance all you want.
It's kind of like saying high blood sugar or high blood pressure or
right.
Elevated. Right. Yeah, okay. Good to know. All right. So Dane asks, this is a supplement question. My coach put me on berberine and turmeric BP plus with the Synachroma in the morning and the other two at night. Is that a good regimen?
Yes, yeah, but remember, that's the regimen for support. That's your support regimen. That's not the program. The program is the diabetes solution kit, phase 1. Start phase 1, and the purpose for the synochroma, the berberine, is decreasing inflammation. It improves your insulin sensitivity. And it gives you all the nutrients that are commonly deficient in people who have type 2. So those are the support program. They're not the reversal program. The reversal program is really the book. So yeah, get the book, go through the book.
I'll say this too, like Dr. Saunders does a good job reminding people like you just did, but like, yes, we do have supplements available, but really supplements are like one of 7 things that are part of this. And I like to talk about stacking good, healthy habits. And so detoxification or fasting, like shutting off the sugar, is a huge part of that. And you have to be doing that. You can't just like keep eating sugar and then sprinkle in a little cinnamon and think that it's gonna reverse all of the bad that you're doing by adding the sugar. So stop, the sugar is a huge factor. And then, other things like sleep, like get a good night's sleep, go to bed on an empty stomach. And so that's timing of your food and what you're putting in your body, reducing your stress. You shared the story of the mom that her daughter was living with her and it was just super stressful. And then she moved out and her stress went down and her blood sugar numbers and her insulin resistance got better. So, and then exercise, again, like that's a huge factor. If you're not exercising, if you're sitting around all day and not moving, like, that you're not burning enough calories, you're not burning off that energy, burning off that sugar. What else, and then it is the supplementation of the deficiency. If you're not getting your vitamins and minerals that your body needs from food, then that's where the supplements come in and are healthy. So, but yeah, that's a good reminder. These aren't magic pills, and it's the same, like metformin is the same thing. People are prescribed metformin and doctors, make it seem like, this will help you. You don't have to change anything. Well, yeah, it'll cover up a few symptoms, but then you're going to get some side effects and other issues coming with it. And you're not really helping anything of the underlying issue, or you're not solving anything. So it's really a holistic approach. And that's what I love about the diabetes solution kit and what Dr. Saunders teaches. So, all right. On to the next one from Kathy. Could you talk about some advocating for yourself with your doctor? Yeah, how do you work with your doctor to advocate for yourself and like tell him like I want to get off meds? And what do you do when he says don't lose more weight? I guess we might need more info on that. Like, Kathy, if you're overweight or underweight or.
Okay, so I think the best way to work with your doctor is to say what you want to accomplish. Okay, so I want to accomplish reversing the diabetes, not having diabetes anymore, and not having any medications. And most doctors will be really supportive of that. And the ones that aren't, gosh, if you could find another doctor, that's fine. But the ones that aren't supportive of that, then you can still change your diet. You still have that option. You can still go out and exercise. You can still lower stress. You can still improve your life. And then it comes to the point where your blood sugar is now low. So you call your doctor and you say, call or go in or whatever, and you say, look, my blood sugar is getting low. It's too low. Which medication should I stop so that I don't get hypoglycemic? And every doctor is going to say, oh, you don't want to get hypoglycemic. So sometimes you have to just start the program. And then when you start getting down into the normal range and you're concerned about hypoglycemia, then you let your doctor know. And then the doctor will help you get off the medications one by one as you don't need them anymore. So that works pretty well also. It does make it harder. I have a patient right now who's kind of in that situation where she has an endocrinologist. The endocrinologist says, no, you have to take the medications. And the medications raise the insulin, and insulin tells your body to hold on to fat and doesn't let her burn fat for energy. So she's having a lot of trouble with, she can't lose weight, even in spite of being on a diet. And it just makes it really hard. So sometimes it's difficult, but to overcome that, then you just, be very good about staying on the program, decrease the amount of sugar, glucose, carbohydrates that you're taking in, and then increase your exercise. And even you could try fasting. Be careful with fasting on medications, because you can get pretty hypoglycemic from if you're fasting and taking medications.
Yeah, Julie asked, what if my primary won't get me off the drugs, off the meds? And
yeah, Velo says Barbie and I had to change 3 doctors before we found one who would support us. So, sometimes, yeah. So if your blood sugar is getting low, then you go to the doctor with, I'm worried, I'm concerned. This is dangerous to get low blood sugar, and then they'll always take you off. If you're worried, concerned, and it's dangerous, then they'll always take you off.
All right. What is low in Canadian for numbers?
Okay, low is like for blood sugar. Oh yeah, too low. No, that's the glucose. Okay, so between 4 and 5, between 3.8 and 4.5 is kind of the 70 to 90 range in the American system, in the United States system. In the Canadian system, it's going to be between, low is going to be in the 2 point something, is when you're definitely hypoglycemic.
Good old United States of America had to come in and change all the measurements.
Yeah.
Cups and gallons and all that. Instead of ounces and liters. All right. Ron, I see carb balance foods that are like 18 grams of carbs with 15 grams of fiber for a net 3 grams of carbs. Does this really count as 3 grams?
Yeah, if it's net 3 grams, that's it. You take the fiber out, yeah, and it counts as 3 grams.
Yeah. Fiber are like, they don't count because your body doesn't digest it. It goes right through. It's yeah. All right. Bob, several times I've heard here that drinking soda without sugar or using a sugar substitute in our coffee is not good. So what should we do? Drink regular soda and use sugar in our coffee?
You know what? It would be better. But you have to count that in your carbs. And I would say, no, don't drink soda at all. I do have people who say, but I have to drink soda, and so they do soda water, just carbonated water, and that's okay. And it's better not to have the ones that have flavors in them either, because they do have, even if they don't have artificial sweeteners, they have the flavorings in them. So it's best to just drink water.
Yeah, anything that makes your pancreas secrete insulin really is the problem, and it's about the insulin, too much insulin, right? So there really aren't any drinks or foods for that matter that, I mean, there's a difference, right? But a lot of these 0-calorie drinks especially have huge amount of sweeteners in it, and you taste them, it's like, that's so sweet, and like, yeah, your body thinks it's sweet, so it sends out the insulin to go lower your blood sugar, but it doesn't find anything, and so it's wreaking all sorts of havoc in your body. Yeah. What about like coffee with cream? Like, because cream isn't sweet typically, and but it's got fat. So, and fat has some flavor. So how does fat, like in the cream, how does that affect your insulin?
Well, that's actually really interesting. Fat does not raise the insulin levels, if at all, hardly at all. And it depends on what else it's with, of course. But So cream, just plain cream, is actually not bad, because if you look at, you have to count the carbs, and you don't have to count anything in that because there's no carbs in it. So that would be an okay thing to do. But if you're adding milk, you'll see that there's actually a significant amount of carbs in milk. So that's a little different than you would expect, because remember, this is not like a calorie counting program. This is a carb counting program. And the reason we did that is to try to make it simple, something that everybody could do. And you can get used to this, and you could just, look on labels, and it's all written on the labels. It's easy to find. So yeah, you don't have to count the fat.
Yeah, you have to be careful looking when you add cream. Look at the box or the bottle of the cream and make sure that it is zero sugar, zero sweeteners, anything like that. So it's about the carbs and the sweetness. And I think we have a saying: if it's sweet, retreat. If it's sweet, retreat. Just say no. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Sandra, should we always be taking our blood sugar in phase 1 throughout the day?
You don't have to do it throughout the day. It can be helpful. I often recommend people get a continuous glucose monitor. And it may be helpful, splurge a little and fast a couple of days, and then take all the money that you would have spent on food and buy a continuous glucose monitor. Sometimes your doctor will prescribe it, but insurance doesn't generally cover it unless you're insulin resistant or something like that. It depends on the insurance. And if they don't cover it, it's like $80 for the 2-week button that you get from the Freestyle Libre. And then you can monitor your blood sugar all day long, like even at night when you're sleeping. You're getting this continuous monitoring. You can just look on your phone and you look at the graph, and it's like, oh my gosh, why does it go up there? Why does it go up there? And you can ask these questions. What did I do here? And just remember that it's not a one-to-one thing. Like, oh, if I eat this, it goes up this much. To some extent, you'll see that, but things will surprise you. I had one of my patients called in, and she said, "Okay, this is weird. I can eat bread and it stays stable." She has a continuous glucose monitor. But I ate nachos, no sugar in them at all, except the chips. But the bread didn't make it go up, but the chips, the nachos, it shot up like crazy. People are different in how they respond to things, and fat makes you insulin resistant. So sometimes the blood sugar will go up more with some fat in your meal than with the sugar in the meal. So, you can see that if you have a continuous glucose monitor. But if you're in phase 1 and really what you're looking for is insulin resistance and not blood sugar, then all you need to check is once a day in the morning around 8 o'clock in the morning before you eat.
All right. Kevin asks, are leg cramps the same cause and effect as the pins and needles?
No, they're different issues. Cramps are caused by changes in the electrolyte balance. And electrolytes means the salts. And that would be sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium. And so what it is the muscles contract and they need energy to relax. They don't need energy to contract. They need energy to relax. And so if you can't get energy there, then they don't relax very well. So because of electrolyte changes like potassium, for example, insulin is very important to get potassium into the cells. And so if you have no insulin receptors, guess what? You don't get potassium into cells. And because of that, then your nerves won't work very well and your muscles won't be able to relax. Magnesium and potassium are important for relaxation.
All right. Just a reminder, you can visit bartonwebinar.com to register for this and join us live. If you're not on live right now, this will be recorded and put on YouTube. And yeah, check out our YouTube page, Barton Webinar on YouTube. You can find our page. Like those videos, hit subscribe, and you can get notified when new videos come out. But we've got over 200 of these fixed blood sugar webinars that have been posted. And you can go into our channel, and if you have questions that don't get answered or whatever, if you think of some later, just go into our channel and then in the little search box, type in a keyword for what you're looking at. And chances are we've probably talked about it before in the last 4 years, 4.5 years. So, all right, let's keep going here. So Mary says, I've been eating from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Her blood sugar first thing in the morning is 111, 112. What do I need to do to get my blood sugar to 70?
Okay, so eating window is good. Sometimes I've had people do like a 36-hour fast to get things, because what that does is it changes the metabolism from a primarily sugar burning metabolism to a primarily fat burning metabolism. We don't think about it, we don't talk about it much. But we think it's like an either or situation. Either you're burning fat or you're burning carbs, glucose, and so sometimes some people are carb burning and some people are fat burning. No, that's not the way it works. Human beings are both, and it's both all the time. And a normal person who has a normal metabolism will burn 60% carbs and 40% glucose. I'm sorry, 60% fat and 40% glucose. And so actually, in a normal person, you burn less glucose in a day. Less of your energy comes from glucose than fat. It's mostly fat every day. So when you have insulin resistance, then you can't, that it blocks you from using fat for energy. So now you have a smaller amount, maybe let's say 30 or 40% fat for energy and 60 to 70% glucose for energy, which is causes more oxygen-free radicals. It's like a higher octane fuel, and it does more damage to DNA and causes more damage. So, wait a minute. I'm sorry. What was the question?
So what do I need to do to get my blood sugar to 70?
To 70, right? Okay. So what you need to do is become a fat-burning metabolism. You need to get that so that you're primarily a fat-burning person. And so sometimes that requires a period of time of fasting. So if you look at the research, most of the time, if you're doing a water-only fast, it takes about 72 hours to get to completely switch over to a fat-burning metabolism. And that usually makes a big difference. But if you've been intermittent fasting where you're only eating between 8 and 3, then you may do well. In fact, I was just reading a book on this, Fast, Feast, Repeat by June Stevens. And she says you can do a 36-hour fast. And she's had a lot of people that switch over with just that.
And sometimes it could be other factors like stress or sleep or exercise as well. So yeah. Right. Again, it's kind of the holistic thing. Keep doing that. So, Paul, I'm on day 7 of phase 1. My blood sugar before breakfast and dinner has been very consistent at 120 since day 2. I stopped taking metformin and Jardiance since there seemed to be no need for them, but what can I do to give it a downward push?
Same issue. Like everything Joe said too. Decreased stress, sleeping is at good times, getting your circadian rhythm in order, and maybe try an extra fast where you do water only for a day or 2 or even 3.
All right. James, is ketoacidosis a danger on a low-carb diet? If so, how can I avoid it?
Okay, that's a great question. Okay, so type 1 diabetes. How do you know when your diabetes is out of control? Well, they measure blood sugar, but you can have really high blood sugar and not be in a danger zone, so to speak. I've had people in the 500s or 600s, and they're not in danger. But if you measure ketones and their acidosis, the acidosis means their blood is acidic, because our blood works. All of our enzymes work better in a basic or an alkaline environment, and so if it becomes more acidic, then things don't work very well, and that's really dangerous. So one of the ways that a hospital or a doctor would look to see if it's dangerous, if your blood sugar is really high, then they look at the ketones and they look for the pH of your blood. And so if you're in diabetic ketoacidosis, then that's dangerous. And generally, you need to be in the hospital and sometimes in an intensive care unit. My dog last week died from diabetic ketoacidosis. But that was for a different reason. He got an infection that got into the pancreas, and so quit making insulin. So he quit making insulin, and so went into diabetic ketoacidosis because of the infection in the pancreas. When people have diabetic ketoacidosis, it's just as dangerous. But the same thing is they're not making insulin. That's what makes it dangerous. If you're type 2 and you have high insulin levels, then ketosis is actually a helpful thing for you. So remember, these are two very different diseases, and they have a little bit of overlap in that the blood sugar goes high. But when you have type 1 diabetes, you have no insulin. When you have type 2 diabetes, you have insulin, often too much insulin. And so because the blood sugar is high, they have a little overlap in the symptom there, and they have the same name because of that overlap. But diabetic ketoacidosis isn't an issue with type 2. It's an issue with type 1. And yes, it's very dangerous in type 1. But if you have type 2, then don't even worry about it. Just go on the program and reverse it.
Well, sorry about your dog, Dr. Saunders. That's sad.
Yeah. Did you know Jack?
I don't think how old was he?
Oh, 8, 9 years. He was 9 years old.
I might have. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I just remember the stories of your cat and Taco Neck.
Taco.
I wanted to also give condolences to Kathy, who lost her brother today from diabetes. So very sad.
Oh, yeah.
She's working with her husband. They both have either diabetes or prediabetes. She had a question about, can you take metformin with the berberine?
You can take metformin with the berberine. They do the same thing. You wouldn't need both of them. It's best. I would take berberine rather than metformin. Berberine doesn't have the issue of causing acidosis or liver damage, whereas berberine rarely can do that.
All right, two last things before we finish up, but I want to share what Velo and Barbie put in here. To everyone who's new, Barbie and I are living proof that the solution kit works. Barbie was in the high 300s. Velo was low 200s when we started. We have reversed our diabetes. And yes, we have gone back to phase 1 on occasion to ensure that we stay true north. So thanks for sharing that, you guys. And the last question from Kathy, can you talk about what COVID has done to blood sugar and diabetes and all that? How does, COVID?
Okay, so the virus COVID, when people have infections, that's a stressor, and stress tends to raise blood glucose. And so people who have type 1 or type 2 tend to have more problems controlling their blood sugar when they have COVID. And then some people have what's called long COVID, where they keep getting symptoms. And in looking at that, the Harvard researchers found that people had persistent spike protein, and that their immune system was not clearing out their spike protein. And so that can last for a long time and cause clots in the veins. And it also can affect the blood sugar by increasing the stress hormones. So and persistent inflammation. So those are still issues. So that needs to be dealt with on a separate level than the sugar. But that would be one reason why someone might have their blood sugar is now not controllable, whereas before it was, and now it was under control, and now it's not. It's like, what the heck? Well, there's more inflammation and more stress, which can make the glucose higher in the blood.
All right. Well, another great episode of the Fix Blood Sugar webinar. Thank you, Dr. Saunders, for joining.
You're welcome.
And, I will stay on for a minute here, but yeah, thanks again. Take care. All right. So yeah, thank you guys for joining today. Really good stuff. Lots of great questions. We didn't get to all of them. We've had, let's see, we had like 140 some people join us today, so we weren't able to get to all the questions. But again, if you go to our YouTube channel, just go to YouTube, or actually just go to bartonwebinar.com, and then we have the link to our YouTube page from there. And then you can find all the 200 plus episodes that we've posted there. And it's Dr. Saunders answering your questions. And so, yeah, just super helpful. We offer this as a free service to you guys. One of our core values is to help people more. And it was right before COVID hit in 2019. I was just like thinking, like, how can we help people more? Because people are buying the diabetes solution kit, but still, like, we were realizing, like, there was still like a lot of people that were asking for refunds or not figuring things out. And so we're like, what if we did a weekly webinar with Dr. Saunders where he would just answer your questions? And that's just been so helpful for not only for you guys, but also for us as a company, for even myself and others on our team, to really understand the troubles that you guys are having so that we can help think about new solutions to help you guys through this. And so we've always gotten lots of great feedback, continue to get that from you guys. So we just know that we're doing the right thing here. So, but hey, just keep up the good work. Like, this is something that, diabetes isn't something that you get overnight. It's not contagious. You don't just wake up and realize, oh, I just caught diabetes. It's like, no, your body has been like building this insulin resistance over time. And so it's not necessarily a quick fix, and it does take like consistency throughout. But you can, like he's shared, like you can do a lot of reversal of symptoms fast just by fasting, and by shutting off the sugar supply and exercising and burning off those excesses and things like that. And then looking at your sleep and your nutrition and your stress and other things like that. So just keep up the good work. Keep going at it. My word for the year, I encouraged my team to come up with their word of the year. And I like this idea, but mine is consistency. And in a lot of different areas of life, whether it's health or relationships or business or finance, like just consistency, like just keep showing up, keep doing what you got to do, a little bit here, a little bit there. You're going to eventually experience great results. It's kind of the story of the tortoise and the hare. The hare, the rabbit, takes off. They're in a race, and he takes off and he's sprinting super fast. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to win. But then he starts getting tired from how much he put into it and doesn't see the results. And he sees, oh, the finish line is way over there. Meanwhile, the tortoise is just like plugging along, consistent. He's going. And eventually he passes the rabbit and he ends up winning the race. And that's the same type of mindset that we need to have as well. Just like keep showing up, keep doing what you know is right. And hey, if you have a bad day, if you mess up, don't let that defeat you. Just know, like, that's going to happen sometimes. But if I have more good days than bad days, like, I know long term that I'm going to be better off. So just keep on doing that. And if we can support you any further, we're here to help. Visit bartonwebinar.com. You can get a copy of the diabetes solution kit if you don't already have it. We have this handy printed workbook version that you can order, and we will send that in the mail to you. It's got the handy dandy grocery list in the back with all the foods that you can be eating and add to your grocery list. And And the supplements that we offer. So we've got, this is our number one product is Synachroma, the blood sugar support formula. And Dr. Saunders formulated this by doing thousands of tests with his own patients, seeing that they're deficient in vitamin D and vitamin K, deficient in chromium, vanadium, and selenium. And then we have the cinnamon bark extract as well, which studies show helps to lower blood sugar by 24%. So that's the number one product. You can get that from bartonnutrition.com. And we forgot to mention, you can get 25% off your purchases if you use a coupon code, webinar25, and that's because you're a guest of our webinar. So we do have a berberine product. However, we're out of stock right now. And so we're working on that. It might be end of February until we get that back, unfortunately. Apparently berberine is in hot demand right now, and the quality of the berberine that's being delivered is not passing tests globally right now. There's a lot of bad berberine supply, so you got to be careful about that. Just know that all of our supplements are lab tested and insured for quality and all that. We also have a really good product to fight inflammation, turmeric BP. And this is available on our store as well. And it's a great source of curcumin and turmeric, which is like inflammation is another thing that increases insulin resistance and increases blood sugars and A1C. It also, turmeric helps to lower blood pressure. And then the second product that we ever created is this one called Nervala. And this has I named this Nervala because it's like nirvana for your nerves, and it has ALA in it, which is alpha lipoic acid, is one of the key ingredients, and that is what helps people with the neuropathy, nerve pain, numbness, tingling, things like that in the hands and the feet. It also helps sleep better at night. So, and then the last one I'll talk about here, seems there's still quite a few people listening. Thank you for staying on. Is my favorite product. I take this every day, Healthy Gut Restore. This is a probiotic and prebiotic and a digestive enzyme blend. So we're learning more and more about probiotics and digestive enzymes and the benefits that it has. Not only does it help your digestion, but what I noticed, I just turned 50 this last year, and I've been getting more muscle stiffness and soreness in my body, in my back and neck and different things. And then a friend of mine shared some research where he showed that our body, as we get older, it's not able to digest protein as well. And so what happens is there are things called fibrins that get into your bloodstream and into your muscle tissue, and it causes irritation and inflammation. But the remedy for that is proteolytic enzymes, which are digestive enzymes that are targeted towards proteins. And so we already have that in the Healthy Gut Restore. So I just started taking 3 or 4 of these, like doubled up the dose for myself. I hadn't been taking it every day, but I doubled my dose and my stiffness went away like in literally 2 days. And hasn't come back. As long as I keep taking a daily dose of my Healthy Gut Restore, the stiffness is gone. It's like night and day, miraculous difference, and I love it. And there's also recent research. I just saw Dr. Mercola posted something about probiotics have a beneficial effect to your mood, basically like antidepressants in a sense, like just like a very positive impact. So, that gets into the research where your gut is like your second brain. And if you're keeping your gut healthy, like it just affects everything. So really fascinating stuff. And just to encourage you, if you need any more support, check out bartonwebinar.com. You can order products there. Use that coupon code webinar25 to save 25%. Watch more of our YouTube videos with Dr. Saunders. The more you educate yourself and learn and continue, like a lot of times we need the repetition, right? Like if you hear something 5 times, you might not remember it, but that 7th time, probably gonna remember it. There's some psychology behind that, but just keep educating yourself, keep surrounding yourself with positive people that are supporting your health goals. And we're a team. We're here for you guys. We love you guys. Thanks for joining us. And I just remembered I have a call I was supposed to be on 10 minutes ago about artificial intelligence. So that'll be fun. But thanks, you guys. And join us next week live, and we'll get more of those questions answered, and we'll dig into some other good topics on this subject. So take care. God bless. Bye-bye.